we said, first of all, you need to know your units. Your units determine your risk. So know your alcohol units is number one. Number two is then know how many carbs roughly you're going to be consuming. And then those two things alone will determine your strategy. You're definitely going on a basal reduction, regardless of how you're doing it, anywhere between 25 and 75% due to the number of units consumed. And then if you're drinking drinks with carbs in, you're potentially going to put a little bit of carbs in up front. If the number's getting over 50, 60 grams, you half maximum, but you start low and go very slow and find out. And that's going to kind of give you a playbook. We've said as we're going along, you don't want to be dropping below 7 or 125, and anywhere between that 125, 200 or 7 and kind of 12 is a good place to be during, and also make sure you're in that zone before bed. We said that AID systems may pose an additional problem that we've never seen before, which is if you go high, it's going to shovel extra insulin in. If you have big problems with that, despite putting the activity mode on, you may decide to go back to manual mode with 50% basal and just stay safe. But that will be up to you and your sort of provider as you kind of go along. We said there is an alternative strategy that if you're really going to go for it and you don't want to be attached to something, you can just go back to injections and put 50% of your basal in for the 24 hours and detach yourself from the pump, take a quick acting pen out with you if you need it, and therefore you can be detached. So that's also possible, a way of kind of completely getting, safe and also, not a risk of pulling a cannula out or something like that. So I think from a strategy perspective, that was kind of getting about everything that we've covered. I mean, I don't know why we needed an hour. I could have just started at the beginning and could have saved ourselves some time, but...
We'll just tell people, jump to 103 in the video and just listen to the 5-second summary at the end. No, I think that was awesome.
We also covered the list, didn't we, of stuff that you need with you. So what do we have on there again?
Well, I was also, just before we jump to that, I want to make sure that we also think about... hypoglycemia and, with drinking can also mimic very similar symptoms, right? And we didn't explicitly call that out, but I think that's also really important, and why having someone who knows your symptoms and knows what that is, you can often mistake kind of drunk with hypoglycemia. Those symptoms sometimes get really blurred. I think it's really important to kind of talk about this, because not only is that a key reason to have someone following you, but also just to make sure that if there is someone that's drinking less or someone that may be a little bit more responsible than you are that night, to check in and make those check-ins really important every hour just to see how you're doing. So that is really key. And one other thing I just wanted to add about the carb feeding is try to avoid drinking on an empty stomach. I just think about how many times people would go out and really not focus on what they were going to eat. Maybe they'll focus on what they'll eat later, but try to incorporate kind of a full meal that is kind of complex carbs, some proteins and fats. Do that at the start. Make sure you get something in your system. You do not want to be doing this with an empty stomach. So just to make that clear, I also wanted to make sure I point out those two things.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. And yeah, obviously we said, kind of you can never have enough hypo treatment around, either with you, with your friends, by your bedstand, etc., etc. So kind of have that stuff with you. Obviously, you can carry an extra cannula with you when you're out, then great. So if you've got a partner, so obviously my partner, Danny, have you got your bag? We'll stick some of that stuff in there. And she's like, I'm supposed to have a lady's bag. Now look at this, I've got a suitcase I'm going out with. You're going to be kidding me.
That's why you got a +1 that they can help out.
Yeah, 100%. So what I will do is in the show notes, I will obviously put these key strategies down. I'll also create a bit of a lead piece FAQ so people can capture all the good stuff in one go. And then I guess that just really kind of leaves to, in the next one, we're going to focus on stimulants and really sort of take away the stigma of legality, because it changes everywhere, and just talk about the effects of what these things do. So that can range from anything from caffeine to nicotine to amphetamines to MDMA. All things are stimulants. Some are legal, some are not, and we'll sort of talk a little bit about that. But ultimately, if people are going to experiment with these things, they need to know what they do, they need to know what the risks are, and also from a diabetes perspective, how to stay safe. So those are kind of what we'll cover in the sort of the next one.